So today, I kind of want to talk about how I understand the nature of truth to be. Okay? I won't be too philosophical, I hope. And I probably will be hyper controversial. But as it's about epistemology, most of you won't care anyway. There are two ways you might understand the truth of things. One way would be a kind of a librarist model. The truth is out there. All we have to do is find it. Little particles are buzzing around. All we have to do is name them and find them. And bingo, we'll understand the face of God. It's a totally legitimate theory. Okay? I suppose we could argue it's Platonic. That somehow in heaven there's a perfect version of things if only we can reach it. But if I'm really, really honest with you, I've never found it that convincing, because actually everything involves human engagement with it. Now, I don't want to sound, I'm not going to go too far down this, because this goes down a very dark alleyway about everything being our perception and all being in our head. So that's Bishop Berkeley, and Bishop Berkeley is wonderful, and Hume, who builds on Bishop Berkeley, even better. But it can be used by idiots like Icke to say all kinds of nonsense. So you need to be very careful here. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that my experience of life is always my engagement with it. I'm always exchanging with something that I experience in the exchange as being beyond me. So I both exist and conjured into existence, and the external world is conjured into existence in an activity. Your fundamental activity arguably is your body. I probably would argue that, within which something which you would call your essence, or perhaps some of you might call your soul, exists, inhabits, is created, however you like. I could give you a whole lecture on Spinoza or Leibniz here, but I'm not going to, so don't worry. But the point is that it is an engagement, and the further you go down in science, the more it's about experimenting, the more it's about engaging with the world, having models for it. It's not that this exists like a tree exists or like the tunnel there exists, but even that is arguable. It is much more a way of this gives this result, so we do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. My point is that it is a creative activity. And knowledge is nothing if it is not an absolutely creative activity. Okay? Now, as part of that, things that haven't yet revealed themselves have a very complicated status because you half guess them. They're beginning to change you. You almost know. You can feel your mind beginning to move. And I've talked about this before, but actually, that for me, that's one of the most exciting things you can ever feel. Okay? And it's genuinely, genuinely exciting. But it also has an effect that things that are true that you haven't yet named, by true I mean things that will change your entire world perspective, that you haven't yet quite named, thought through, experienced, often emerge rather strangely, okay? And are difficult to pin down, literally, because they start to change your mind and you start to respond to them. But how you respond to that change can be complicated and difficult. Now, let me give you an example. I'm going to do something probably that I will uniquely do that only once in any video I ever publish. I'm going to agree with Robert Kennedy. Okay? Shock over. And the thing, of course, I agree with is obesity drugs versus dietary health. It is clearly better to eat 3 good organic meals a day, so not McDonald's. Make sure this clear. That is a way of saying not fast food, than it is to eat your fast food and take your obesity drug. Okay? Because beyond the fact that Kennedy then will mess that into a whole reaction to justify a theology, I suppose, of alternative science, and he will use it as an attack on alternative science because that fits in with what he already believed. So the truth has transformed him. It's made him understand the world differently. We've got to go beyond McDonald's. We've got to go beyond obesity drugs. But then he's plugging it into his existing reality, and suddenly it's supporting Trump and it's a prop to a right-wing dogma. It's very easy to do, you see. Something that is right, because it is right, becomes irreducible in your mind. But if you already believe things, or you want to believe things, it's terribly easy to plug that truth you have discovered, you've uncovered, you've stumbled across, into what you already believe. And because it's transformatory, it will transform that belief and make it feel more powerful and more useful. Now, in a sense, that is always true. That's true for me. My beliefs, strangely, are all left-wing, and I see the need to get rid of obesity drugs in terms of a left-wing argument, okay? But I'm very self-conscious about that. I know where my politics begins and where something about the nature of humanity and what we're doing when we're eating and how we're fitting in with the planet kind of plugs in and transforms that politics, okay? And I'm also open that I might not be right about that. You might be able to make a very strong argument to me that obesity drugs are transformatory in a way that I haven't yet understood. Maybe. I think my point here is that when something is going to come in that's going to change you, it falls upon a mind that is existent. And how the mind responds to that is complicated. It can respond to it so that it reinforces things that it already is, or it can respond to it that it opens up to a whole different set of ways of being, thinking, of understanding who you are, so it's transformatory. So when Shane and me moved to the Ariège, there's the Ariège, you can say hello. It's dawn light because this is a dog walk. There's a dog over there somewhere. We were still very much just eating food because it's food, don't we? We don't do junk food, but we do food. And then you're here for a while and the Ariège gets to you. And the fact that actually you can just get organic for easy. You see, you almost get organic easier if you don't go to supermarkets than non-organic. And you start to notice how it changes your understanding of what food is. And actually you start spending more on food and not minding about it because that's just the way it is. Okay? And then that opens up to a whole different way to understand the natural world for me. And transforms how we understand where we are with planets, animals, and within nature. Okay, so it transformed my politics. So one little point that I agree with Robert Kennedy about transformed, changed, evolved my politics to make it richer, more complicated, more difficult, more controversial, actually. Because that's for me what the truth does. The truth should change you, but it doesn't have to. It can conform to what you already are. More excitingly, the way that it emerges, that exciting rupture in the emergence, will feel terribly uncanny, and often you will want to double down. You will want to go back to what you already know, or fit it within a exciting. I think exciting was the wrong word there, by the way. I think more negative excitement than positive excitement. Fitted within the structure that you already are. So truths, for instance, about the danger of capitalism, or actual difficult truths about the nature of modernity, easily get twisted into QAnon conspiracies. Not because QAnon conspiracies are right, because they're clearly bullcrap. They're so rubbish. I'll start to froth when I talk about them. So I'm not going to talk about them today because it's still the dawn light. But, the overall mistrust of a certain way that authority is being done in the computer age, well, that's spot on. You couldn't put a paper between me and the most conspiracy theorists about my opinions about Google and Facebook or YouTube or all the rest of them. And it is a way of understanding that truth and fitting it into an existing truth that creates the problem for a lot of conspiracy theorists. They're kind of working as if they were thinking. They've got some of the engines of thinking. They've got some of they've even got some of the truths of thinking. But the truth doesn't always set you free. It can bind you much, much closer to the prison you have already constructed by bolstering it with something that is already true, that is really transformatory, and makes the prison a jail for the soul.